On a crisp December morning in 2023, as cameras flashed and crowds gathered outside St. Mary Magdalene Church in Sandringham, Princess Catherine stepped out wearing what appeared to be just another beautiful coat. But hidden beneath the elegant navy blue fabric and perfectly tailored silhouette was a story that would reveal the true power of royal fashion. A story about grief, hope, family traditions, and the careful art of silent communication that has guided the monarchy for centuries. What the world didn't know in that moment was that this single piece of clothing would become the center of a deeply personal narrative that connected 3 generations of royal women, bridged the gap between tradition and modernity, and sent a message so powerful that it would resonate far beyond the walls of the Norfolk Church where the royal family gathered for their traditional Christmas service. This isn't just a story about fashion. It's a story about how a woman navigating one of the most scrutinized positions in the world uses every tool at her disposal, including her wardrobe, to honor the past, support her family, and shape the future of an institution that has endured for over 1,000 years. It's about the weight of unspoken expectations, the comfort found in meaningful traditions, and the extraordinary way that ordinary objects can carry the deepest human emotions. As Catherine walked through those church doors that Christmas morning, she wasn't just wearing a coat. She was wearing history, carrying hope, and sending a message that only those who understood the intricate language of royal symbolism would fully comprehend. This is the untold story of why that choice mattered more than anyone could have imagined. The December wind cut through Norfolk like a knife, carrying with it the scent of winter and the weight of expectation that always seemed to settle over Sandringham during the Christmas season. Inside the grand estate, Catherine, Princess of Wales, stood before her dressing room mirror, her reflection showing none of the turmoil that had marked the past year. The woman looking back at her appeared composed, elegant, ready to fulfill her royal duties with the grace that had become her trademark. But appearances, as Catherine had learned during her years in the spotlight, could be beautifully deceptive. The year 2023 had been unlike any other in Catherine's royal journey. It had begun with such promise. William's 41st birthday celebration in January, their children growing more confident in their public roles, and Catherine herself finding her voice on issues close to her heart. The early education initiatives she had championed were gaining momentum. Her photography exhibitions were drawing international acclaim, and for the first time since joining the royal family, she felt she was truly making a difference in ways that felt authentically her own. But then came the shadows that seemed to follow royal life like unwelcome companions. The publication of Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, in January had sent shockwaves through the family, its pages filled with revelations that cut deep into the private moments Catherine had thought were sacred. The book painted her in ways that felt foreign to her own experience, describing tensions and conversations that seemed distorted through the lens of pain and distance. She had read the passages about herself with a mixture of sadness and disbelief, recognizing fragments of truth wrapped in interpretations that felt like looking at herself through a funhouse mirror. The spring brought its own challenges. King Charles, still adjusting to his new role, was navigating the complex balance between honoring his mother's legacy and establishing his own vision for the monarchy. Catherine watched William struggle with his new position as heir to the throne, the weight of future responsibility settling on his shoulders in ways that made their private moments feel precious and fragile. Their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, were growing up faster than she had ever imagined possible, their innocent questions about family dynamics becoming harder to answer in simple terms. As summer arrived, Catherine found herself increasingly aware of the microscope under which their family lived. Every public appearance was analyzed, every fashion choice dissected, every interaction between family members scrutinized for signs of tension or harmony. The constant speculation about relationships within the royal family created an atmosphere where even genuine moments of joy felt performed, where spontaneous laughter was interpreted as either evidence of family unity or a mask for underlying discord. The autumn brought unexpected challenges that tested Catherine's resolve in ways she hadn't anticipated. A minor protocol breach during a state visit led to weeks of media analysis about her preparedness for her future role as queen consort. Critics questioned whether she had been adequately trained for the complexities of royal diplomacy, while supporters defended her natural grace and intuitive understanding of her position. The episode left Catherine feeling exposed and uncertain, wondering if she would ever feel truly prepared for the responsibilities that lay ahead. It was during this period of self-doubt that Catherine began to understand more deeply the weight that Queen Elizabeth II had carried for 7 decades. The late Queen's ability to remain steadfast in the face of constant scrutiny, to project stability while navigating personal and political upheavals, suddenly seemed not just admirable, but almost supernatural. Catherine found herself studying photographs of the Queen from different eras, looking for clues about how she had managed to maintain her composure and her sense of self while serving as the focal point for a nation's hopes and fears. The approach of Christmas 2023 brought with it a bittersweet awareness that this would be their second Christmas without Queen Elizabeth II. The previous year's celebration had been marked by the raw grief of her passing just months before, the family still reeling from the loss of their matriarch and the nation's beloved monarch. This year, there was an expectation that they would have found their new rhythm, that the sadness would have softened into something more manageable. But Catherine discovered that grief doesn't follow convenient timelines or public expectations. As she prepared for the traditional Christmas morning service at St. Mary Magdalene Church, Catherine felt the full weight of her position in ways that surprised her. This wasn't just another public appearance. It was a moment when the entire family would be scrutinized for signs of how they were moving forward, how they were honoring the past while building the future. The choice of what to wear became more than a fashion decision. It became an opportunity to communicate without words, to send messages about continuity, respect, and hope. In her wardrobe hung dozens of coats, each with its own history and associations. There were pieces she had worn to previous Christmas services, creating their own traditions and memories. There were new additions that represented her evolving style and growing confidence in her role. And then there are the pieces that carried deeper meaning, items that connected her to the women who had walked this path before her, who had faced similar pressures and found ways to transform them into strength. Catherine's hands moved thoughtfully through the options, feeling the weight of different fabrics, remembering the stories attached to various pieces. She thought about Queen Elizabeth II's remarkable ability to use her clothing as a form of communication, how her bright colors had become a symbol of hope, how her brooches carried messages of diplomacy and remembrance, how her consistency in style had provided a sense of stability in an ever-changing world. The choice Catherine would make that morning was informed by months of reflection, by her growing understanding of her role, not just as William's wife or the children's mother, but as a woman who would one day help guide the monarchy into a new era. She understood that every choice she made would be interpreted and reinterpreted, that her clothing would be analyzed for signs of her state of mind, her relationships, her priorities, and her vision for the future. But more than the public implications, Catherine was driven by a personal need to honor the connections that had sustained her through the challenging year. The relationships with women who had mentored her, the traditions that had provided comfort during difficult moments, and the hope that had carried her family through times of uncertainty. As her hand settled on the navy blue coat that would become the center of so much speculation and analysis, Catherine felt a sense of rightness that went beyond fashion or protocol. The coat represented something deeper than style. It was a bridge between generations, a tribute to wisdom passed down, and a promise of continuity that extended far beyond any single moment or season. As she prepared to step into the December morning and face the cameras and crowds that awaited, Catherine carried with her not just the weight of expectation, but the strength that comes from understanding one's place in a larger story, one that began long before her and would continue long after. The decision she had made about what to wear that Christmas morning would later be understood as one of the most meaningful fashion choices of her royal career. But in that moment, it felt simply like the right way to honor the past, while stepping confidently into the future that awaited her family and the institution they served. The navy blue coat that hung in Catherine's wardrobe carried within its fibers a story that began years before she had ever imagined herself as a member of the royal family. It was a story woven through generations of women who had understood the unique power of clothing to communicate messages that words could never convey, a story that connected the grand traditions of British fashion with the intimate moments of family life that rarely saw public light. The coat itself had been crafted by Alexander McQueen, a fashion house that had become synonymous with royal elegance since Sarah Burton took over as creative director. Burton had designed Catherine's wedding dress, that masterpiece of lace and silk that had captivated the world in 2011, and their professional relationship had evolved into something deeper over the years. It was Burton who understood Catherine's need for clothing that could serve multiple purposes, pieces that were elegant enough for state occasions, practical enough for royal duties, and meaningful enough to carry personal significance. When Catherine had first seen the coat during a private viewing at the McQueen Atelier in London, she had been struck by its perfect balance of classic elegance and contemporary sophistication. The deep navy color was rich and versatile, appropriate for solemn occasions, while maintaining an optimistic quality that reflected her personality. The cut was impeccable, tailored to flatter, while allowing the freedom of movement that royal duties demanded. The buttons were crafted from mother of pearl, catching light in a way that added subtle interest without overwhelming the garment's refined simplicity. But what made this coat truly special was not its construction or its color, but the way it connected Catherine to a tradition of royal women who had used their clothing choices to communicate strength, continuity, and hope during challenging times. As she ran her fingers along the wool fabric that December morning, Catherine thought about Queen Elizabeth II's famous bright coats that had become symbols of resilience and optimism throughout her 70-year reign. The late Queen's approach to dressing had been both practical and symbolic. She had understood that in a world where her every appearance was documented and analyzed, her clothing needed to serve purposes far beyond personal expression. Her bright colors ensured she could be seen in crowds. Her consistent style provided a sense of stability and reliability, and her careful attention to symbolic details like brooches and jewelry allowed her to communicate diplomatic messages without speaking a single word. Catherine had studied the Queen's approach with the dedication of a scholar learning from a master. She had noticed how Elizabeth II would choose specific pieces for significant occasions, the way she had worn Queen Victoria's diamond fringe tiara for her wedding, connecting herself to the long line of queens who had come before her. She had observed how the Queen would select brooches with particular meanings for state visits, using jewelry as a form of diplomatic language that transcended cultural barriers. Most importantly, Catherine had learned how the Queen had used her consistency in style to provide comfort and reassurance to a nation during times of uncertainty. The navy coat represented Catherine's own interpretation of this royal tradition. Navy blue had been one of Queen Elizabeth II's preferred colors, appearing in countless photographs throughout her reign. It was a color that conveyed authority without aggression, elegance without ostentation, and reliability without stagnation. For Catherine, choosing to wear navy on significant occasions had become her way of honoring the Queen's memory while establishing her own distinctive style. As she prepared for the Christmas morning service, Catherine remembered the conversations she had shared with the Queen about the role of clothing in royal life. These discussions had taken place during private moments at Balmoral or Windsor, when the formal protocols relaxed enough to allow for genuine mentoring between generations. The Queen had spoken about the weight of representation, about how every choice a royal woman makes becomes a statement about the institution she represents and the values it embodies. People need to see us, the Queen had once told Catherine during a quiet afternoon at Balmoral. They need to see that we take our responsibilities seriously, that we understand the privilege of our position, and that we're worthy of the trust they place in us. Sometimes that message is communicated through our words, but more often it's communicated through how we present ourselves to the world. These words had taken on new meaning for Catherine as she navigated her evolving role within the royal family. The previous year had tested her understanding of this responsibility in ways she hadn't anticipated. The scrutiny following Prince Harry's memoir had made her acutely aware of how every aspect of her life could be interpreted and misinterpreted by those seeking to understand the dynamics of royal relationships. The questions about her preparedness for future responsibilities had challenged her confidence in ways that required deep reflection and renewed commitment to her duties. But it was during these challenging moments that Catherine had found strength in the tangible connections to the women who had faced similar pressures. The coat she chose to wear was more than clothing. It was a link to Queen Elizabeth II's unwavering dedication to duty, to Princess Diana's revolutionary approach to royal engagement, and to the Duchess of Cambridge's own journey toward finding her authentic voice within the constraints and opportunities of royal life. The process of selecting her outfit for Christmas morning had begun weeks earlier, as Catherine worked with her styling team to consider not just the practical requirements of the day, but the symbolic messages she wanted to convey. The weather forecast called for cold temperatures and possible wind, requiring a coat that would maintain its elegant appearance despite challenging conditions. The setting of St. Mary Magdalene Church, with its historic architecture and intimate scale, called for something that would photograph well against the stone backdrop, while remaining appropriate for the religious nature of the occasion. But beyond these practical considerations, Catherine was thinking about the emotional needs of the moment. This was the first Christmas since King Charles had begun to find his rhythm as monarch, the first time the family would gather without the acute grief that had marked the previous year's celebration. There was a sense that this Christmas could represent a turning point, a moment when the royal family demonstrated their resilience and their commitment to moving forward while honoring the past. The navy coat represented all of these considerations woven together into a single choice. Its color connected Catherine to Queen Elizabeth II's legacy while avoiding the starkness of black that might suggest ongoing mourning. Its elegant cut demonstrated her respect for the formality of the occasion, while its contemporary styling showed her commitment to bringing the monarchy into the modern era. Its British craftsmanship honored the nation's manufacturing heritage, while its timeless design suggested the enduring values that the royal family sought to represent. As Catherine made her final preparations that morning, she thought about the photographers and journalists who would document every detail of the family's appearance at the Christmas service. She knew that her clothing choices would be analyzed by fashion experts, compared to previous year's outfits, and interpreted for signs of her state of mind and her relationships within the family. But more importantly, she thought about the millions of people around the world who would see these images and draw from them their own understanding of what the royal family represented. For many of these observers, the Christmas morning service represented an annual tradition that connected them to something larger than their individual lives. They looked to the royal family not just for entertainment or glamour, but for a sense of continuity and stability in an often chaotic world. Catherine's choice of clothing was one element in the carefully orchestrated presentation that would either strengthen or weaken these connections, either reinforce or undermine the public's faith in the institution she served. The weight of this responsibility could have been paralyzing, but Catherine had learned to transform it into motivation. Each public appearance was an opportunity to demonstrate her commitment to her role, to show respect for the traditions she had inherited, and to contribute her own voice to the ongoing evolution of the monarchy. The navy coat represented her growing confidence in her ability to balance these sometimes competing demands, to honor the past while building the future, to maintain dignity while remaining accessible, to represent tradition while embracing change. As Catherine fastened the buttons of the navy coat that Christmas morning, each small action was part of a larger ritual that had been refined over decades of royal appearances. The way she arranged her hair, the angle of her hat, the choice of jewelry, every detail was considered not just for its aesthetic value, but for its ability to communicate messages to multiple audiences simultaneously. This was the sophisticated language of royal symbolism, a form of communication that required both deep cultural knowledge and intuitive understanding of human psychology. The morning routine at Sandringham had begun before dawn, as staff members prepared for the logistics of a royal Christmas that would be broadcast around the world. Security teams coordinated with local police to ensure safe passage to and from the church. Media representatives positioned themselves along the traditional route, their cameras ready to capture every moment of the family's public appearance. Inside the estate, each member of the royal family prepared individually while remaining conscious of how their choices would work together to present a cohesive image of unity and purpose. Catherine's selection of accessories for the navy coat revealed the depth of thought that went into every aspect of her appearance. The hat she chose was a creation by Jane Taylor, a milliner who had become one of Catherine's most trusted collaborators. The piece was elegant, but not ostentatious, sophisticated, but not intimidating. Its navy blue color matched the coat perfectly, creating a harmonious look that would photograph beautifully against the Norfolk sky. The subtle details, a small cluster of fabric flowers, the precise angle of the brim, demonstrated the craftsmanship that had made British millinery renowned worldwide. The jewelry Catherine selected carried its own layers of meaning. Her earrings were sapphire and diamond pieces that had belonged to Princess Diana, connecting her directly to William's mother and to the legacy of compassion and accessibility that Diana had brought to royal life. The choice to wear Diana's jewelry was never made lightly. Each time Catherine selected these pieces, she was conscious of honoring Diana's memory while avoiding any suggestion that she was trying to replace or replicate her predecessor's unique contribution to the royal family. The sapphires in the earrings echoed the deep blue of the coat, creating a visual harmony that spoke to Catherine's growing sophistication in using color and symbolism to enhance her public appearances. But more than their aesthetic appeal, these earrings represented Catherine's commitment to preserving Diana's legacy while establishing her own distinct identity. They were a bridge between generations, a way of acknowledging the past while building toward the future. As the family prepared to leave for the church, Catherine was acutely aware of the dynamics that would be observed and analyzed by those watching from around the world. The positioning of family members, their interactions with each other, the expressions on their faces, all of these elements would be scrutinized for signs of tension or harmony, for evidence of how well they were adapting to their evolving roles within the monarchy. The walk to St. Mary Magdalene Church was a carefully choreographed event that had remained essentially unchanged for decades. The route from Sandringham House to the church was short but symbolically significant, representing the royal family's connection to the local community and their commitment to maintaining traditions that linked them to ordinary British families. The crowds that gathered along the path were a mix of local residents, tourists, and royal enthusiasts who had traveled from around the world to be part of this annual ritual. Catherine walked beside William, their children between them, projecting an image of family unity that had become increasingly important as they prepared for their future roles as king and queen consort. The navy coat moved gracefully as she walked, its perfect fit and quality construction evident in every step. The choice to wear British-made clothing was itself a form of communication, demonstrating support for domestic industry and craftsmanship while reinforcing the royal family's connection to national identity and values. The photographers capturing their progress were skilled professionals who understood that their images would be used in countless publications around the world. They knew which angles would be most flattering, which moments would convey the desired messages of dignity and accessibility, which shots would satisfy the global appetite for royal content while respecting the privacy and humanity of their subjects. The relationship between the royal family and the media had evolved significantly over the decades, becoming a complex dance of mutual dependence and careful boundary setting. As they approached the church, Catherine was conscious of the historical weight of the moment. This building had hosted royal Christmas services for generations, its walls holding memories of celebrations and sorrows, of moments of national joy and personal grief. Queen Elizabeth II had walked this same path countless times, her own clothing choices observed and analyzed with the same intensity that now focused on Catherine. The continuity of the tradition provided comfort and stability, while the inevitable changes in style and approach reflected the evolving nature of the monarchy itself. The interior of St. Mary Magdalene Church was filled with members of the local community, their presence a reminder that royal traditions were not just performance for distant audiences, but genuine connections to the people and places that formed the foundation of British society. The service itself would follow familiar patterns, traditional hymns, readings that connected Christmas themes to contemporary challenges, prayers that acknowledged both celebration and struggle in the year that was ending. Catherine's position during the service was both prominent and humble, visible to those documenting the event while remaining focused on the spiritual significance of the occasion. The navy coat, which had been chosen with such care for its symbolic value, now served its practical purpose as well, providing warmth and comfort during the lengthy service, while maintaining its elegant appearance for the photographers who would capture the family's exit from a church. The hymns that filled the church that morning carried their own emotional weight for Catherine. These were songs she had sung since childhood, melodies that connected her to her own family traditions and to the broader cultural heritage that she now helped to represent. The familiar words took on new meaning as she sang them in this setting, surrounded by family members who shared both the privileges and the burdens of royal life, before a congregation that represented the British people they all served. As the service progressed, Catherine found herself thinking about the year that was ending and the one that lay ahead. The challenges of 2023 had tested her resilience and deepened her understanding of her role, while also strengthening her commitment to the causes and relationships that gave meaning to her public position. The navy coat she wore was not just a fashion choice, but a symbol of her evolution as a royal woman who was learning to balance tradition with innovation, duty with authenticity, public service with personal fulfillment. The moment when the family would exit the church and face the waiting cameras represented the climax of the morning's careful preparation. Every element of their appearance had been considered for its ability to communicate messages about their unity, their respect for tradition, and their readiness to face whatever challenges awaited them in the coming year. Catherine's navy coat would be photographed from every angle, its color and cut analyzed by fashion experts, its symbolic significance debated by royal commentators, its connection to previous Christmas appearances documented by those who tracked such details year after year. But for Catherine, the true success of the morning would not be measured by fashion magazines or social media responses. It would be found in the sense of connection she felt to the traditions she was helping to preserve, in the confidence that came from honoring both past and future, in the knowledge that her choices had contributed to a presentation that strengthened rather than weakened the institution she served. The navy coat was just one element in this complex equation, but it was an element that carried within its folds the weight of history, the hope of continuity, and the promise of evolution. The moment Catherine stepped out of St. Mary Magdalene Church that Christmas morning, the navy coat she wore began its journey from personal choice to cultural phenomenon. Within minutes of the first photographs appearing online, fashion websites around the world were identifying the designer, analyzing the cut, and predicting its influence on upcoming trends. But the impact of Catherine's choice extended far beyond the fashion industry. It represented a masterclass in royal communication that would be studied and referenced for years to come. Social media platforms exploded with commentary about the coat's significance. Fashion bloggers praised its elegant simplicity and perfect tailoring, while royal watchers debated its symbolic meaning and connection to previous Christmas appearances. The navy blue color was analyzed for its psychological impact, its association with authority and trustworthiness, and its connection to Queen Elizabeth II's wardrobe preferences. Professional stylists dissected the way Catherine had coordinated the coat with her accessories, noting how each element worked together to create a cohesive and powerful visual message. But Perhaps the most significant response came from ordinary people who saw in Catherine's choice a reflection of values they admired and aspired to embody in their own lives. The coat's classic elegance represented a rejection of fast fashion and fleeting trends in favor of timeless quality and thoughtful consumption. Its British craftsmanship spoke to the importance of supporting domestic industry and traditional skills. Its perfect fit demonstrated the value of investing in pieces that were made to last rather than pursuing disposable fashion that would quickly become obsolete. Department stores and boutiques reported immediate increases in demand for navy blue coats, particularly those with similar cuts and styling details. The Catherine effect on fashion sales had been documented for years, but this Christmas morning appearance seemed to trigger an especially strong response. Women around the world sought to capture something of the princess's elegant confidence by incorporating elements of her style into their own wardrobes. The coat became a symbol not just of royal sophistication, but of accessible elegance that could be adapted to different budgets and lifestyles. Fashion designers and retailers quickly recognized the commercial potential of the moment. Within days, similar styles were appearing in store windows and online catalogs, marketed with references to royal elegance and timeless sophistication. The naval blue color became one of the most requested shades for the following season, influencing everything from haute couture collections to high street offerings. The coat's success demonstrated the continuing power of royal influence in shaping fashion trends and consumer preferences. But the impact extended beyond commerce into deeper cultural conversations about the role of tradition in contemporary life. Catherine's choice to honor classic elegance while maintaining her own distinctive style represented a middle path between rigid conservatism and rootless modernization. Her approach offered a template for how individuals and institutions could evolve while maintaining connections to their foundational values and principles. This balance between continuity and change resonated particularly strongly in a world where rapid technological and social transformation often left people feeling disconnected from stable sources of meaning and identity. The coat also became a focal point for discussions about the evolving role of royal women in the 21st century. Catherine's careful attention to symbolic communication through clothing was compared to Queen Elizabeth II's mastery of visual messaging and Princess Diana's revolutionary approach to royal engagement. Fashion historians and royal experts analyzed how Catherine was creating her own distinct language of symbols while building on the foundations laid by her predecessors. Her success in balancing multiple audiences and messages demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of contemporary media and public expectations. International fashion magazines featured extensive coverage of the Christmas morning appearance, with many focusing on the coat as an example of power dressing adapted for royal requirements. The piece was praised for its ability to convey authority without aggression, sophistication without ostentation, and accessibility without sacrificing dignity. These qualities were seen as reflecting broader changes in how women in prominent positions were expected to present themselves, moving away from either overly masculine power suits or excessively feminine softness toward a more nuanced expression of competent femininity. The coat's success also highlighted the importance of British fashion industry and craftsmanship on the global stage. Alexander McQueen's creation was celebrated not just for its beauty, but for its representation of British design excellence and manufacturing quality. The attention focused on the coat helped to reinforce perceptions of British fashion as a source of innovation and tradition, creativity, and reliability. This positive association had measurable economic benefits for the industry, with increased international orders and elevated brand profiles for British designers and manufacturers. As the weeks following Christmas passed, the coat continued to generate discussion and analysis. Fashion schools used it as a case study in the power of symbolic communication through clothing. Business schools examined it as an example of how personal branding could be used to reinforce institutional values and objectives. Communications experts analyzed it as a demonstration of how visual messaging could complement and enhance verbal communication in building public trust and support. The coat's influence was also felt in unexpected areas. Interior designers reported increased interest in navy blue as a sophisticated neutral for home decoration. Wedding planners noted more brides choosing navy blue for their winter celebrations, inspired by Catherine's elegant example. Even corporate consultants began recommending navy blue as a powerful color choice for business presentations and important meetings, citing its associations with competence, trustworthiness, and refined taste. The long-term impact of Catherine's Christmas morning appearance went beyond fashion trends to influence broader conversations about leadership, authenticity, and the power of thoughtful presentation. Her success in communicating complex messages through seemingly simple choices offered valuable lessons for anyone seeking to build trust and credibility in public roles. The coat became a symbol of how careful attention to detail, respect for tradition, and genuine personal style could combine to create powerful and lasting impressions. Years later, fashion historians would identify this Christmas morning as a pivotal moment in Catherine's evolution as a style icon and royal representative. The navy coat represented her growing confidence in using fashion as a tool for communication and connection, her deepening understanding of her role within the royal family, and her emerging influence as a global fashion leader. It marked the moment when she fully stepped into her own power as a royal woman who could honor the past while shaping the future, who could maintain dignity while remaining accessible, who could represent tradition while embracing innovation. The story of the navy coat ultimately became a story about the enduring power of thoughtful choices in building lasting legacies. Catherine's decision that Christmas morning demonstrated how seemingly simple actions could carry profound meaning when they were grounded in authentic values, informed by deep understanding, and executed with careful attention to both symbolic and practical considerations. The coat itself was beautiful, but its true power lay in what it represented about the woman who wore it and the institution she served. As Catherine continues her journey as a senior member of the royal family, the lessons learned from this Christmas morning appearance continue to inform her approach to public representation. The navy coat remains in her wardrobe, a tangible reminder of the moment when she fully embraced her role as a bridge between generations, a guardian of traditions, and a catalyst for positive change. Its legacy extends far beyond fashion into the realm of leadership, communication, and the art of using every available tool to serve causes greater than oneself. The coat's story continues to inspire those who understand that true influence comes not from commanding attention, but from earning respect, not from following every trend, but from establishing authentic style, not from abandoning the past, but from building thoughtfully upon its foundations while reaching confidently toward the future. In a world often characterized by rapid change and uncertain direction, Catherine's navy coat stands as a symbol of the enduring power of grace, intention, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you represent.